Welcome back to Beyond the Pulse, your go to podcast where education meets entertainment through the lens of sports science. My name is Siwan, I'm your host, and every episode we will dive deep into the fascinating world of sports science, sports psychology, mental and physical health, and the cutting edge science that is shaping the future of athletes. Very happy to be here today with our new special guest, Rainer. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Rainer is head of performance at FC Utrecht, first division club in the Netherlands. He's been working a lot on performance, physical player preparedness, psychology as well of their players. And he has played a key role in his current club for already 7 years. So thank you for being here, Rainer. Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and welcome again?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. Excited to be here and yeah, really thankful for it. So, yeah, my name's Rainer. Currently the head of performance at FC Utrecht, competing in the Dutch Eredivisie. Started off, you want the journey from the beginning or?
Let's start with an introduction.
Introduction. So, yeah, I'm 33 years old. I have a girlfriend. We own a dog together. That's the personal thing. Just a sports enthusiast. Football in particular. Yeah, again, really happy to be here.
Great. Okay, perfect. Do you any training today?
Yeah, we do in the afternoon. So perfect opportunity to do this in the morning.
Perfect.
But we have an afternoon session. Day off yesterday after last weekend's game. So
Okay, great.
fit and fresh to go again.
Perfect. Okay, so to kick it off, I would love to speak a little bit about your journey up until today, all the different steps you've been through to reach the current position you're in as a head of performance. So, can you tell me a bit more about your past experiences and how you've came across all these different titles or different positions that you've
Yeah.
experienced?
Yeah, so I started off studying to become a PE teacher, actually. I was quite young, finishing high school, secondary school. I was 16 years old back then. Knew I was willing to become involved in sports and football in particular again. So I started doing that in Nijmegen at the ALO, it's called in Dutch, so the Academy for Physical Education. Finished that one in 4 years. Really, I think it gave me a lot of basics on how to stand in front of a group. And again, I was still quite young back then. So maybe in the first year, I was having students who were older than I was. Funny enough, that came across again when I was starting at FC Utrecht because
Yep.
players were older than the coach, than me. After that, I felt like I wasn't satisfied yet, and I didn't see myself working and standing in front of a class for the rest of my life. So started off studying human movement sciences, and I've done that in Belgium, in Leuven, on the university over there. First finished my bachelor's, obtained a coaching degree, the UEFA B badge, and then I was quite in a, well, not a struggle, but I was thinking like, okay, I've seen myself willing to go to the Netherlands again because I wanted to be involved in Dutch football. But I chose to stay, did my master's over there, 2-year master's. Again, obtained a coaching badge, the UEFA A youth license, and I got the opportunity to have a professional internship at both OH Leuven, the regional club there, also competing in the Belgian first division. And I finished my studies with an internship at ADO Den Haag as a sports scientist and S&C coach. So been involved, I think it was the 2015-2016 season. That was just the start of my journey in football. And then from there, it was hard to land a job actually, because a lot of people want to get involved in those kind of positions. So what I did, I volunteered with my own amateur club after I finished my studies in 2016, just to get, I wanted to know how players responded to me as a coach, and I wanted to test and all the knowledge I've gained over the past years and how they responded to it. Did a lot of applications towards clubs and academies from clubs, received a lot of rejections. But then all of a sudden, Utrecht first team came up. They called me if I was willing to join their first team as a C coach and a sports scientist. And then, I just took the leap. jumped into the deep, and then here we are, 8 years from there.
Nice.
Yeah, to where we are today.
Great, great. How was your first experience when you joined football club for the first? So the first one was other than Hug, right?
Yep.
So how did you feel when you started working with the first team? Because
It was
it's not the biggest club in Europe, but that's
yeah, it
big
was amazing.
for you as a first time.
Yeah, back then they were still competing in the Eredivisie
Yeah.
at quite a good level.
So that's actually quite high.
And to me, it was just a childhood dream of being involved in professional football. So I really, how can I put this? I tried to be involved with everything I could and do everything I can to be there as much as I can, to learn from all the people, from the coaches, the players. I had a fantastic time, and it was a good run. Ended up me doing even things like warm-ups for trainings, and I couldn't have imagined that I was able to do that as an intern. But yeah, it was great, and I still speak to the people I met back then. Some of them I see as friends even.
Nice, nice. Okay, so looking back at your journey from your education to your internship, Den Haag, until your current position, what is your biggest learning? What's the thing that is crucial to you that you've learned during these 7, 8, 10 years?
That's a good question.
You can pick two, really. That's also fine.
Yeah, maybe it's something that we spoke about with this morning, like just learning by doing. Like I said, you think you know a lot finishing your studies, but then it starts all over again.
Yeah.
And again, jump in the deep, try to keep your head above the waters, do as much as you can, but to the best of your ability. I hope players and people working with me feel that it's really my passion and that it comes from inside, so intrinsically motivated. And that's the whole reason why I started doing this job, to help people in their lives, in their careers, and in pursuing their dreams. And if I can just be of at least 1% benefit to them, I'm a happy man.
Great. Yeah, that's very, very interesting to hear, because we feel like it's also such an important role that coaches have to inspire their players, whether that's football or basketball, it doesn't matter the sports. Even as a teacher, right? You have to inspire the people you're trying to develop. And I think that can boost so much confidence and so much even physical performance of your players if you're able to inspire them. And I think that's amazing what you're doing. So congrats. And I'm mainly interested in the struggles that you've encountered during these experiences up until today at FC Utrecht, or in your previous experiences.
Yeah,
What's the biggest challenge?
Numerous, and like
Of course,
like we all do.
Yeah.
Like I said in the beginning, I was younger than maybe half of the squad in my first year, than half of the players, which in itself can be a struggle. And it's an environment where they're testing you and seeing, what do we have now, because sometimes as a performance coach, we have to make players do things that they don't like as much as just playing football. So that in itself was a struggle, trying to get the job, land the job where so many people are trying to get it. And just you should be the one, like, they feel like they should pick. And maybe one of my earliest memories just popping up right now is, first season we had, I think we just finished preseason maybe, and we played a game. We had a recovery session, and to do so we chose to have like a run in the woods, something like that. And the head coach back then, he said, okay, I want you to follow this and this pace. And I felt like that's way too hard for a recovery session. So I said it to him, like in the meeting we had with the coaches. But okay, we agreed to disagree. And in the end, he's in charge, and I was just in, so I would follow it. So we went to the woods, and I started off running at that pace. And I've heard all the players screaming like, "What are you doing? This is crazy!" And he himself was also joining. And from the back, I heard like, "Ida, stop! This is way too fast." So maybe it was a test from him. I don't know if I was loyal to him, because, like I said, agreed to disagree, but never showed to the players. Maybe that's a struggle. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, that's actually very good that you talk about it, because I think we're going to discuss about conflicts between performance teams and coaching teams. We're definitely going to speak about it. That's very interesting. But let's not spoil our listeners yet. We will come to it. Yeah, okay, perfect. And how actually did you build this interest in football? Because you started in pretty general sports, right? PE,
Yeah.
and then you build up your experiences. Why football specifically? Of course, it's the main sports in the Netherlands. There's also hockey. There's also
Yeah, it is.
basketball,
No, it was
rowing.
since I was a kid growing up. Football has been my sport.
Yeah.
I've played it myself from the age of 6 until mid-20s, until I couldn't
What
combine
position?
anymore. Different positions,
Different
but yeah, right back mainly.
Yeah, nice.
I wasn't the tallest, but yeah, still maybe good stamina.
Yeah.
No, I
Well,
knew that I didn't have the level to become a pro player, but yeah, football was just my biggest passion.
Yeah.
And written match reports of my own games we
Yeah.
played, watching nearly every game possible where I could, follow all the news, playing on the streets. I still feel lucky that yeah, I was growing up in a time where we didn't have all of these social
Mm.
media and
Yeah.
iPhones and stuff.
Indeed, yeah, same for me. That's a better generation, I would say, but that's a different
I don't know,
podcast
but
topic.
yeah.
Different podcast topic, not for our show.
Not for today.
Yeah, great. Okay, amazing. I'm quite interesting about the culture because so I would like to talk about culture in football and specifically in football clubs and obviously in FC Utrecht, but clubs usually have a different structure, right? Small clubs have a way different structure than bigger clubs. Mid-level clubs also have a different one. Can you tell us a little bit about the structure of FC Utrecht in terms of the different departments, different coaching members and staff, so that our listeners can understand better what is basically the structure of a football club in Eredivisie?
Yeah. So at the core we have the coaching staff, led by the head coach and his assistants, goalkeeper coach and video analysts. And then surrounding is then the backroom staff, of which also the performance and the medical department are yeah, they play a part in that stuff. So we have 3 performance coaches with the first team, 3 physiotherapists, one of which is the head of medical with the first team, and then support staff like team managers and kid managers, for instance.
Yeah.
But don't get me wrong, because there's a lot of other people involved in the club. Like we have the sporting director, the technical director, the board, the CEO, but also people involved in the academy who do an amazing job helping us prepare the next generation players. So that's mainly how the
Yeah.
organization looks like.
Yeah. Okay. And what is we're going to talk about the culture, of course, but of course, every club in Eredivisie, also in other countries, they have a different goal. Some clubs is to win, some others is to build the next generation football players, as you said. What is the goal of FC Utrecht?
For us this year, it's about reaching European football next year.
Yeah.
So we're trying to compete in the top tier of the Dutch league. But then again, still, yeah, we know in Holland we can't maybe keep the best players we have. So yes, we try to develop players in reaching for the next level, and that's also key for the club to be financially healthy, to maybe
Of course, simple.
sell players. And yeah, so we know our place in the football landscape, but we want to compete. We want to get into Europe.
Yeah. Do you think that actually that goal changes every year?
No, I
Every
think
season, I mean, of course.
I don't believe so. Every season, I think it changed over the course of several seasons.
Yeah.
So when I joined, this was already the level we were competing at, so to say. But before, yeah, they were ranked a bit lower on the table.
Yeah.
So I think the club just makes a mid to long term vision to where it wants to go.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're just trying to get the club at the best level we can.
Yeah.
And for as long as I've been here, this is the level we are aiming for, to get into European football and really see if we can compete with the top teams in the Netherlands.
Are you excited for the European championships?
It's been a while since we won the European playoffs, since we played European games. So it would be amazing, a challenge to, and also a big plus and boost to the whole club and the city.
For sure. For sure. See, it inspires everybody, even people in Utrecht who just don't play football, watch
No, but you
football. They
see
just
it.
get inspired, you know,
Yeah, you
by just
see
seeing
now
it.
that if the performances rise and the team does well, then the stadium is packed for home
Yeah,
games, and it's so nice to just step out from the changing room and
yeah,
see the crowd and all the energy, and
yeah.
that really drives our team. Yeah, for sure.
Amazing, amazing. And so we spoke on the phone before the podcast when we arranged it and organized it, and you kept mentioning culture.
Yeah.
What does culture mean to you in elite football, and why is it so important?
Yeah, it's a topic that's on top of my mind. I like a lot, really, but you also hear it very often now. And I think it's not something that's built occasionally; it's built intentionally, and just from small things you do on a daily basis every day and repeat it over and over again. And I truly believe that success doesn't just come from raw talent or IQ or whatever, but it's mainly about how the people work together. And we have, I think we are lucky that we have a culture right now built together and a head coach that is really people driven and likes to work with people. And that's what I said in the beginning. That's also why I started doing this job, because I want to work with people and help them achieve their goals. Yeah. So that's why I'm interested to it.
Yeah. And do you feel like in your daily life, your own idea or opinion of culture meets also the club's culture?
Yeah, it does. At the moment, for sure. Um, at least I think the values I have as a person align with the ones that we have currently. So that really makes it more easy to work with these people, this group of people, in trying to achieve the results we want to.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Nice. And if you would put a keyword on this culture, one word, what would it be?
Safety.
Safety. Okay. Great. Okay. And so speaking about safety and culture and communication in general, because you said it's important on a daily basis to make these small changes to sustain this culture.
Yep.
So how do you first establish this culture, and then second, how do you sustain it on the long term to make sure that it stays for as long as possible at FC Utrecht?
Yeah. Yeah, maybe it's good to start with an anecdote. Like this year, we um, received a book from a head coach, The Culture Code, which I've read before, but I read it again because he gave it to us.
Yeah.
And he gave us some homework to read a couple chapters,
Yeah.
which I did, and it really started tingling my mind and start thinking of it. So, and what the book says is that in order to get a certain culture in place, build safety. Um, no, I forget. So we have to build safety, share vulnerability, and have a collective purpose. Those three. And just maybe as an example, a couple things like share vulnerability. At this moment, we're at a spot that the club hasn't been before. And the coach said to us, he hasn't been in this position as a coach before, being this high on the table. And with him telling this to us, the staff and the players,
Yeah.
that shares his vulnerability with us.
Yeah.
And we're in the same process together. Safety might be that we don't have really high power hierarchy. So when we are in a meeting together, everyone's able to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe small interventions we have with each other. We give fist bumps to each other every morning, look each other in the eye.
Yeah.
We have maybe a bit of a different relationship towards coworkers than maybe other people do. We see them more often than our families sometimes. And yeah, like I said, the goal that we have for this year, the collective vision, is just something that's been is repeated over and over and over again. Just try to live and breathe it every day.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, speaking about this, it's important to communicate these small safety things, more vulnerability. But how do you then, in this case, of course, the culture is the same. It's shared by every department, every staff member of within the club. But it might be the case that each person in each department has different objectives. So for example, the performance team could be to make sure the players are injury free. The coaching one is to make them win, establish the right strategies on the pitch, right? But how then, in this case, what type of systems or strategies do you implement to make sure there is a good communication between the staff, knowing that they might have different objectives?
Yeah, in the end, try to align all of the different objectives towards the same collective vision. So we all want to win games, get us as many points as we can. But yeah, sometimes there can be a conflict of interest, and just try to hear the other one out, and try to validate what they say, because you can actually learn from it. And uh, again, like I said in the beginning, sometimes we agree to disagree, but we never show it to the outside world, or we never show it to the players. But I think we created a safe environment in where at least we are able to speak ourselves to one another. So I might disagree with something that the head coach wants to do, but then again, I will. One thing I think from having a collective vision is that people can uh, join that above their self-interest. So sometimes, and I'm not that type of person maybe, but I have to step above my self-interest in order to get what the team needs.
Compromise.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And speaking about these compromise or these conflicts, what do you do, or specifically when it comes to conflict resolution with the staff, especially different departments, right? Because as I say, they might have different objectives. How do you resolve them while keeping everybody focused and aligned within this culture?
Some also in the book actually, but after action reviews. So something happens, we have a conflict, and then we sit together and then hear everyone out, making sure that everyone is able to speak and add to the situation. And then in the end, we try to come to an agreement, and we try to learn from it. So I think actually we had one of these conversations last week. New player coming in, thinking of testing him, because we wanted to know where he was at when he joined the team, and then where we were going. But then someone asked a question like, let's say we had a different option, a different day to test him, would we do it? And then I had to say yes, because it might not be the best day. But then in the end, like I said, I just have to hear the other one out instead of making the decision myself, because we know more if more people are involved. And that sometimes maybe as a manager or a head of or whatever, you have to make decisions, and then that's where we go to. And then that's what I said. You agree to disagree, but this is the way we go. And if something maybe more complicated is happening, I would say I would like to go into a one-on-one conversation with the person, and then trying to resolve it together, and then know what drove him to make that decision, or me, or
Okay. Yeah, very interesting. I'm especially curious about the conflicts when it comes to coaching department versus performance department, because we spoke to also a lot of athletes at Pulse, and um, a lot of the times we feel like, especially in clubs that put less emphasis on the culture, where some departments, some people have different cultures, different objectives that might be conflictual in a way. It happens that sometimes, for example, a player might be reaching overtraining states, and the performance tab says you have to lower your volume or your intensity of your training, but then the head coach or the assistant coach says you have to push more because there's a game coming. These type of conflicts are super interesting in a football club. How do you deal with that, for example? Did it ever happen to you? Well, you mentioned the
it did.
ID, you mentioned the story at the beginning in the woods. That's one example.
Yeah, for sure it did. I think it happens to all of us. Not as much currently,
Of course.
luckily, in the way we work together. But maybe I would just tackle it the same way I just mentioned. Sometimes I believe with coaches, it's not really helpful if I confront them with my thoughts, or um, something I disagree with, when they are in front of all of their colleagues. And sometimes it's just good to maybe rest the situation a little bit, and then come back to it on a later occasion, in a one-on-one conversation or a two-on-one conversation, and then really, so that all of the emotions have settled down a little bit, and then we can have a good conversation about, okay, this happened, we can't change it anymore, but let's take responsibility, and how can we move forward and do better next time.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, makes sense. Okay. So you're the head of performance. What does performance means to you?
a constant strive to do better every day, taking responsibility for your actions and reactions, like I just mentioned, not blaming external factors. Being intrinsically motivated is part of it as well. It's so much more fulfilling if you do something from your heart, from passion, and staying calm and focused every now and then, because working in a high performance environment can be stressful. But keeping a calm mind
Yeah.
will help making better decisions.
Yeah.
So that's performance to me in my role.
Yeah. Okay. And how do you help the club and at the same time the players achieve your vision of performance?
Hopefully I do. You have to ask others.
How though?
Yeah. Ask myself the question every day, what's best for the players? Because that's why we're there for. We create a plan, like to call it plan A. And everything we do should be according to following that plan. And because, okay, we might need to deviate from it, but ask the question why, because we agreed that this was the line we should follow. But don't get me wrong, because not I, but we also plan to fail, because things happen
Yeah, of course.
from scratch, and then you should be able to make new plans accordingly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Great. And speaking about performance within the context of training your athletes, what are the elements that are most important to you to maximize performance?
Can you? I don't know if I get the question right.
So you mentioned different elements for performance. Now, if we focus more on, let's say, player performance on the
Yeah.
pitch or outside the pitch, what are the most important elements that you monitor or that you want to boost to maximize this performance?
Oh, like that. Yeah. Like I said, we have a plan, but each individual player will respond differently to that. So maybe that's getting us towards the next topic for today. But there's a lot of things you can measure.
Yeah.
And maybe sometimes we can be trapped inside in the woods between everything
Too
we
much.
can. Yeah. So we try to narrow it down towards, well, I like to call it basics. I don't know if it's basics, but just a small set of data we rely on every day, because we can actually have some influence upon the training schedule or the training methodology we do.
Yeah.
And it was a search from that big cloud of possibilities towards how we work today.
Yeah. Okay. And you mentioned training methodologies. Do you have specific methods that you implement now within the club to maximize player performance that you can talk to us about?
From a periodization perspective,
For
you
example,
mean? Yeah.
that could be a good example.
Yeah, we are drawn and inspired by the tactical periodization model, which is a holistic approach.
I like this word.
Yeah, it's it's a word that you hear very often these days. But so we're trying to combine the technical, the tactical, the physical, and the mental part together in training.
Yeah.
And why it is that we training, because the goal is that we get our players fit to compete at the highest level for hopefully multiple games a week if we reach for Europe next year, and that the coaches can do what they need to do to prepare the team throughout the week, and that they have the best possible availability on game day, because we want to play with our best players and with the best lineup. So in that part, we have weekly recurring microcycles,
Okay.
which aren't exactly the same every week, because it depends on the match schedule. For instance, this week is a Saturday to Friday week, whereas the week before we had 3 games in 7 days. So that's a whole different approach. But we have certain principles within our way of working that we apply to every microcycle, and then, of course, we plan the whole season if we have the schedule. But for us, it just really helps to view week by week, and I have weekly meetings with the coaching staff to discuss content, what they are aiming for to do with the team to prepare tactically for the next game,
Yeah.
and how can we as a performance staff help them prepare and get the players fit and fresh on match day again, and what parts fit together.
Yeah.
Technical, tactical.
Yeah.
And the mental part can then also be sometimes, maybe once a week we have something we like to call the frustration training. So players get fatigued, coaches have certain rules they put on the players, or sometimes we forget to whistle for a foul, and then if we are fatigued, then our natural behavior comes.
Yes, irritable. You
Yeah.
start
Yeah.
testosterone.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, we are with a group of men every day.
Of course.
So testosterone plays a role. But that's also something part of it. Like, how do you respond? And I think our coaching staff is really good in observing how players respond to certain situations.
Yeah, and players do respond in a different way, right?
Yeah.
How do you take into consideration this unique personality? Yeah, so every player is different, whether that's biologically speaking, physically speaking, mentally speaking. How do you take so much complexity into consideration to talk to them, to build your training, to build your microcycles on a weekly basis?
Yeah, that's a good question actually. So we like to say that we see the person before the player. Maybe as an example, for instance, yes, we rely on data, and players have to report their well-being scores every morning, how they feel and how they recovered from yesterday's session or sessions. But if, let's say, you come in every day, you look me in the eye, you say good morning, and on a given day you come in, you don't look at me in the eye, you don't say good morning, then that's a red flag to us, even though he might say I'm perfectly well for training today. On top of that, every player is different, like you mentioned, and is maybe has the same position as someone else, but has a completely different physical profile in playing that position.
Yeah.
So with all of the data we gather every day, we know what Siwan does on his position, and then also from the testing we do, these are your areas for improvement. So we have an individual profile for every player, and that has to fit within the team structure and the team schedule. And we try to make room for every player to work on those areas, sit with them, try to create an individual plan so they feel like it's actually from myself, to get him intrinsically motivated. Like, I want to work, improving myself, getting better,
Yeah.
reaching for my goals.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're a bit amateur psychologists, maybe.
Yeah, very interesting, because actually there's a new type of like in recent research in sports science, there is this consensus that the mental affects the physical and the physical affects the mental. And
Yeah, for sure.
in new sports science, which actually goes too much into the details, I feel sometimes, but actually it's helpful, because then you start looking into how these differences are important. And as I say, this type of research also looks, for example, at how nutrition affects each person differently. One stupid example is, I take a banana, you take a banana, it might affect you in a different way, genetically speaking, and in terms of energy intake, So these type of research looks at these type of small differences per each player, but it's almost impossible to monitor it on a daily basis. Is there a way for you to look at these type of elements? For example, how the nutrition intake of the player affects their physical preparedness on the pitch, or maybe their sleep affects?
Yeah, I
Then in a
think we're
different way.
lucky that we have a lot of specialists in our staff and in the building. So we try to get as much knowledge in. And then, for instance, if we take this example with nutrition, we also have a nutritionist who talks to the players individually. And if they have issues like intolerances or whatever, and then she can change the menu for that given player.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's maybe also some journey that football has taken or is about to take, that we are going to individualize it even more, even though it's a team sport.
Yeah.
So the time where we looked at, okay, the team ran such an amount of kilometers, I think we're past that,
Exactly.
and we're looking way more into, okay, what is this particular player showing
Yeah,
us, and what
yeah.
does he or she need
Yeah.
to be at his or her best.
Indeed. Mhm.
And I think there's still a long way ahead.
Yeah. But it's moving quite fast. I feel like sports science research has developed significantly in the last
Yeah,
just
it
5
has.
years, and it's keep moving forward. So that's inspiring to see.
Yeah, there's never a dull moment, and
Yeah.
there's new research coming out every day, and we try to, yeah, get it into our workflow when we believe in it.
Yeah, and I think data and technology has a role to play in this science advancement. Um, Specifically talking about tech and data, what type of tools do you use to track physical performance, mental performance? Even do you have
Yeah.
a set of things or KPIs you can talk to us about?
Yeah, so both objective and subjective. Objectively, we have like many clubs do, or all clubs do. We have GPS devices, heart rate monitoring, strength assessment using Vault, for instance.
Yeah.
And subjectively, questionnaires, daily questionnaires to the players, like I said, their well-being scores, sleep levels,
Yeah.
sleep duration, sleep quality, stress levels, mood, soreness, sore areas, just everything we need to
Yeah.
know from them. Again, trying to get that holistic approach. RPE scores for training, like how well have they, like we give them a certain dose and
Yeah.
how have they responded to it.
Yeah.
Sometimes also ask the coaches to give an RPE score, because that might be
Different from what the players
imbalanced
feel. Yeah.
towards what the athletes felt or the players felt. I think that's about it. And then, like I said before, we came from a lot of metrics we try to monitor every day, but we felt like, okay,
Too much.
there's a bunch of them that we look into every day, but we really can't do an intervention that might change it. So just narrowing it down,
Yeah.
and then it's maybe just the basics. Like,
Yeah.
for sure, we look at high speed running and maximum speeds reached and stuff like that. Or, but as much that I said, is it's important that we see how the player behaves. If you come into our facility, it's designed in such a way that it has glass windows everywhere, not to control each other, but to see and other people do stuff, and to get interactions going. And then maybe in the players lounge, for instance, they can watch into the gym, and they see a tech ball table over there, and they see their fellow teammates play tech ball. They might choose to join them and being physically active. Or something really different is that we have an open kitchen, so we actually have interactions with the people preparing our foods.
Yeah.
And being humble in such a way that you say, thank you, and being grateful for them, because nutrition, like you just said, plays a huge role, and they make fresh food for us every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And you just mentioned now, before talking about nutrition, you said that you started with a lot of data and you felt that it was overwhelming.
Yeah.
Do you think it should also be the next advancement of technologies to help you analyze this data in a better way and not get overwhelmed, to have KPIs for you in hand based on what you're looking for in terms of objectives, in terms of goals?
Yeah, sometimes I think, because probably for a reason, they've had such a huge amount of metrics in the devices we're using. But sometimes maybe we're also, as people, maybe we tend to be lazy in such a way that we look towards the data with a certain interest, and then trying to get out of it what we want to be out of it. And I think with all of the new advancements in AI and machine learning and stuff, it's also able to find connections and relationships we haven't even thought of.
Exactly.
And I think that's really can be
Powerful.
powerful, and the next step, and maybe points us in a certain direction that we haven't even thought of.
Yeah, that's a very good point you mentioned, because now sports science research is actually using machine learning even more to look at this relationship. And that's also what we're implementing at Pulse, is kind of assisting the coaches, whether that's head coach or performance team, to kind of already have quantifying this relationship. And this relationship is difficult to do as a human being, because you'll need to look at data every day, hundreds of data points, and then look at it acutely, chronically, over weeks and months in the past. And I guess it's also the role of new technologies now to help you have these insights and do the relationship quantification for you.
Just as an example, like looking at GPS metrics, and you mentioned ratios, acute to chronic.
Yeah.
which might be different between you and I.
Exactly, yeah.
Because of our background,
Yeah,
training
nutrition,
history,
sleep,
everything we just talked about.
yeah.
So, and yeah, if we have machine learning helping us in making better decisions to help the players, in the end, that's why we're there for.
Yeah, yeah, okay. And speaking about gathering reliable data, and you mentioned that sometimes it's too much data, but what would you say at the moment is your biggest obstacle in gathering and analyzing data, if you have any big obstacle at the
Yeah,
moment?
sometimes it can be even as silly as players forgetting to wear the device. And we try to tackle that by making it as easy as possible for them so that everything they need for training is on their way to the pitch.
Yeah.
So they just basically have to take it and everything's been turned on or switched on. And they just have to wear it and then put it back to where it belongs after training, and we'll take care of it. Educate the players in being honest with the subjective part of the data, that it's not a way for us to control them
Yeah.
or pulling them out of training.
Yeah.
There's maybe a little bit of like trust and a relationship
Yeah.
between the performance and the medical and the players,
Indeed, yeah.
that we're there to help them and
Exactly.
not to reduce them in
Yeah.
training, but just to make better decisions to keep them up and running.
Yeah, and it's definitely talking to them that you will kind of share this message that it's valuable for them and for you.
Yeah.
Both. You're both winning in this situation,
Yeah.
right? So I guess if you tell them this, then they understand it.
Yeah, and you work with people, so if you just say them and tell them you have to do this and this and this, you might get a certain behavior back, and then they'll say, like, "Okay, I'm not interested in doing this." Whereas if you just tell them, "Okay, this is both better for you as it is for us,
Yeah, indeed.
and this is why we do it," and you can ask questions why we do it, I think it promotes the behavior on a long-term basis.
Yeah. Yeah, more sustainable for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, more sustainable like
Yeah.
that, yeah.
And once you have all this type of data and metrics, how do you streamline this into decision? How do you turn them into key decisions you can take to improve on the pitch?
Yeah, like I said before, I think we've narrowed it down to a set of metrics that we look to on a daily basis, and that combined with still being in conversation with the players helps us making good decisions. We just, if something odd is happening or something is off in the data, we discuss it with everyone involved, and then we make decisions accordingly for that given day.
Yeah. Okay. And funny thing, but sometimes humans are against data. Let's say a stupid scenario where data says one thing and then a coach says something else. Let's say data says the player is overtrained, but the coach says, no, it's time to push more because I don't believe in this. Now I see you, I feel you can push. How do you deal with these type of scenarios? And especially how do you communicate it? Because it's all about communication with the parties involved, right?
Yeah, just being open and honest, as we always do. If it is on data, I always try to be, I don't know if I have to put it like this, like black and white, but I always try to be as objective as I can. So I don't try to give my own feeling to it. The only time I would also incorporate my own feeling is if I am in a genuine conversation with the coach, then for instance, that okay, this is the data tells us one thing, but also my gut feeling tells me
intuition
that
is important.
that he is not available for training today, and that we should do something different with him. And then in the end, it's still like the head coach or the coaching staff might make a decision, and then that's what we're going to do. And I would never give the player the feeling that I said something different, because I want to give him the feeling that he can do what we are about to do. And maybe a good example is that one of the seasons, the last season that we reached for Europe, that we won the playoffs, the coach really gave us freedom to do what we needed to do, what we thought that we needed to do. But as experienced as he is, not really experienced maybe in working with data, he wasn't that interested in it as some coaches were. But he just trusted us and let us do our job as long as he could do his. that was maybe a consensus we agreed for that year.
Mm. Yeah, very interesting because you mentioned intuition and a gut feeling. Do you think that maybe football has become too data driven?
Sometimes, yes, but I think if you use it the right way, it can be of huge benefit. But sometimes maybe, yeah, where I'm more happy if we had a good session out there on the pitch
Yeah,
where we didn't met the numbers we thought of before,
yeah,
instead of just chasing numbers and having a bad session.
for sure.
And
Yeah,
that's also something that I learned along the way. You asked in the beginning, what's a lesson you've learned? That's maybe one. Like in the beginning, I tried to control everything, and I was afraid if a player has done maybe a couple meters too many on high speed running, for instance, and his ratio went up a little bit too much.
yeah,
99% of the times, nothing happens. He or she doesn't get injured. And I think you have to learn that along the way and try to really trust yourself, but also trust the coaches who've been
yeah,
out there for I don't know how many years training players. Yeah.
yeah. Interesting. And when the intuition fits the data, let's say data says a player is not doing well for this or this metric, or maybe ignores in terms of mood, optimism, potentially depression symptoms. Let's say,
Mhm.
hope it never happens in your performance career, but let's say that's what data says, and you also know it and you feel it and you see it. How do you go and communicate this with the player?
I would invite them for an open conversation because I can't tell them how they feel. But I think this is if it's about a depression or something like something bigger than just not being good for training. It's something you see over the course of multiple weeks or even months.
Sure.
And since we are that close in working with the players, you build a relationship with them that I think you can have an yeah like a good conversation with them, and then hopefully they are opening up towards us. If not, we might facilitate them to go external and speak and free their mind. Um, yeah, because in the end, we work with human beings, and
Yeah.
we just hope that they are in a good position and that they feel well and that
Yeah.
they thrive. And um, yeah, sometimes that can mean that you have to make harsh decisions, and that a player will maybe not be present at the club for
Yeah.
a given time.
Okay. Yeah. Difficult situation, but I guess again communication is key
Is
in
key.
in
Yeah.
this situation.
Sometimes
Yeah,
we might underestimate what pressure is on these people.
for sure, especially in such elite level.
Yeah.
Always on a
Yeah.
daily basis, every single game, especially if you are getting closer to European level. So that's
Yeah.
yeah,
But like you said, communication is key, and every type of behavior we do affects the other.
yeah,
In a group setting, in a one-on-one setting. If, for instance, right now we've met before this morning, and I was quite calm and reserved, and now all of a sudden I'm going to behave like this. That yeah, in the end it will have
mm,
an effect on you as well. And I don't want to trick the player then if he's in a bad situation, but yeah, you try to help him
yeah,
as much as
yeah.
possible.
Okay, yeah, interesting. I want to reflect a little bit. Before the show, you said that you've been working all these years to reach the position you're in. That's something you really wanted to do.
Yep.
Would you say now you're living your dream as a performance coach? And how, if yes, I guess it's a yes. How does it drive your daily approach to the specific demands of this position?
Yeah, for sure. It's my dream job. It's what I've been dreaming of as a kid, and all the steps I took along the way to get here. Um, and what drives me is just that I'm able to work with motivated people every day. So every morning I step into my car. I have an hour drive from and to the club, um, thinking like, okay, what am I going to do today to impact the team, the individual?
Yeah,
And hopefully, that's what I always tell myself and the players and other people. Like, if a player leaves Utrecht, hopefully for good reasons, that he goes to a bigger club and being sold, he will think back of his time at our club and thinking
remember
like,
you.
yeah, they did some good things,
Yeah,
and what they taught me over there is something I can bring along for the rest of my
yeah,
career. Um, and seeing the players thrive on the pitch and seeing the team thrive on the pitch is such a rewarding thing.
Yeah.
And hopefully, we as a performance staff and me myself play a small role in that.
Yeah. I think a big role actually, because I always feel like the performance team is like behind the scenes of
Yeah,
the team success in a way.
yeah. I think we're in the back room, but yeah, I think I like to be there.
Yeah, good.
But
Perfect.
I appreciate kind words.
Yeah, yeah. How, now that you've reached your dream position, how does your future look like personally, professionally? You want to stay in football? What's next for you in let's say 5-10 years, whatever?
Yeah, so for now, short term, I would like to finish the season strong with the team, reaching our goal of getting into Europe, and then next year competing at that level. And yeah, for sure, I want to stay in football, and yeah, personally on a professional level, I would also see myself working at maybe a bigger club in the Netherlands, or maybe even going abroad. And yeah, how can I put that? Experience new cultures,
Yeah.
both to live in, but also how performance and football is being seen in a different country.
Yeah.
I don't want to put names on it
course.
or time frames on it, but
Yeah.
yeah, I'm ambitious myself. I've been here now for a couple years. Still happy. That's, I think, the most important.
Of course.
But yeah, if a new opportunity will come, I would be open to it, and then yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Do you think then you might have something to do with in actual coaching and not performance?
Could be, yes. Like I said, I have the background, and I'm a football animal. um, but I felt like this was maybe the best way for me to get involved at the level I was willing to, at the elite level. And I'm always drawn towards movement, physical abilities of human beings, and the combination of the two is, I think, is the gold combination for me.
Yeah. Interesting. Great. And how do you then, because I guess that's a lot of work at the level you're in. So how do you maintain healthy work-life balance in performance
Question.
coaching in football?
That's tough sometimes.
Yeah.
My girlfriend can act like a mirror to me. Had to learn that sometimes that she does. Sometimes we work long hours, long weeks, day after day. But in the end, if you do something that you really enjoy, I think it doesn't feel like work to me.
Yeah.
But that can also be the pitfall, because you keep on going.
Yeah.
So right now, at this point in my career, which is still relatively young, I believe, let's say yesterday we had a day off, and then I really try to let it be a day off. And I cannot say that I haven't checked my email or whatever, but
Yeah.
I think I'm better in leaving my work at work when I'm home, and vice versa. And now also having people within our staff who actually take work from me that I've done in the past was a big lesson as well. Like trusting others to do the work, because they will do it well, and they will do it to the best of their capability, and just free up your mind a little bit.
Yeah. Do you discuss also work-life balance with the players?
Yeah, sometimes yes, in a way that with some players you have a different connection than others, and you open up a little bit, because like I said, you spend so many hours together that yeah, I'm the type of person who also is able to share something from my personal life sometimes, but up to a certain level.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to give them more pressure to what they do, or more load that they have to be aware of, because so it can happen, yes, but not very often.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Great. Okay. Perfect. I think we've reached almost the end of the episode. We would love to do a little fun game together. It's called Rapid Fire.
Yeah.
And the rules are the following. So me or you, depending on who starts, is going to choose a sport for the other. And the other person has to describe the rules of the sports in the most professional way, without telling the name of the sport in just 10 seconds.
Yeah. Okay.
And then eventually the one who chooses the sport says whether I get the point or not. And then we move on. The best to three wins.
Yeah. Clear.
Okay. Guests always are starting. So
I can choose the first sport.
yes,
All right. I would say water polo.
water polo. Okay, that's definitely not my sports. But I
10
guess
seconds running, eh?
I guess imagine swimming, but then involving a team where you have to exchange the balls and reach a certain target.
Yeah. Right.
Can be better.
Can be better.
You can reject me. That's also fine. That's also fine.
Yeah, I reject it.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, great. I guess my turn. I'm going.
Sets the tone, eh?
Yeah, I'm going for horse riding.
Horse. Oh. Yeah, so I think it can be different disciplines, but I would say there's like a jockey and a horse, and they are riding and performing some sort of a routine or a dance, and then it's more aesthetically. So a jury will decide the amount of points they will get.
Okay, I definitely give it a point. I couldn't even
I was like,
describe it better.
Yeah. So that leaves me for another sport. All right. Australian Open is going tennis.
Tennis. Okay, tennis. It's another ball game. So basically, the goal is either 1-against-1 or 2-against-2, during which these players have to fight against each other for can be few hours, and the goal is to score as many points as possible until the end of the sets.
All right. 1-1.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
I was afraid you were gonna hit me a second time. Okay, my turn. Cricket.
Cricket. Oh, I'm not really known to that. It's also a ball game. There's like a pitcher who throws it towards the other player. He has to hit the ball, and then as far as he can, it's a really big pitch, and then they run up and down the hill, something called like that. And then it's a team sport. You try to make more points than the opponent to win the game. Can be really long game, by the way.
Okay, I will say yes. I will say yes.
I'm not really that into cricket.
I've heard baseball, but let's say it's almost the same. Baseball fans and cricket fans will hate us for saying this.
Yeah, I know. I'm not that into it.
Me neither.
I played it once when I was doing.
Okay, at least you played it. I never did, but that's also fine.
Siwan, if you make this point, you continue. If you don't get this point,
Yeah.
you win.
Okay.
Okay, so we do.
So that's
like an equalizing round.
Yes.
We do. Let me think. What would be a good one? There is one sport actually I know. I'm not sure if you're aware of it.
Already difficult.
But it has a fun story behind, and it's called UFO.
Oh yeah, of course I know UFO.
Good, man.
I know UFO, of course. Actually, we've met the founders recently because we actually share the same.
He's a friend of mine.
Oh, nice, great. Because they have been a few years back nominated as best innovation in the Netherlands,
Yeah.
and we've been the same as well, nominated, actually awarded last year. So we actually know each other for quite some
Yeah,
time.
well done.
Great. Okay, so imagine having frisbee, but in that case, you kind of have a stick, and the goal is that each team has to send that little circle to each other, and they have to reach it with that stick to catch it. So let's think of it that way.
Yeah.
It's a very difficult sport.
It's a very difficult, yeah, but it's nice.
very difficult sport.
Yeah, I
to,
think
describe.
I think we have the equalizer. 2-2.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna go for. Let's go for Australian rugby.
Australian rugby. Again, a team sport. Odd-shaped ball. Australian football or Australian rugby?
Rugby.
Rugby. I don't know the exact differences between the others, so I don't know. Guess that leaves me with no point. I don't think it's 7 aside, or what's it?
Yeah, to be honest with you, I also don't know the difference.
Just give me a top one.
One of my friend is also one player. He also plays that, and he's from Australia. So
I know a bit more about the AFL, like the Aussie football. Okay, so that leaves me in a bad position. Let me think. Road cycling.
road cycling. Okay, so each athlete has his or her own vehicle. It's 2 wheels, and basically the goal is for them to travel a certain distance with as fast as possible and reach the end of the finish line, the first ones on the road.
On the road. All right, congratulations.
Perfect, great. Okay, fun game. Thanks, Rainer. Really appreciate having you here today. I think it was a great talk. I hope it's going to inspire a lot of aspiring performance coaches and even athletes, even other type of people interested in football. So very happy that you joined us today. Thank you again.
Yeah.
Is there anything you would like to share with the audience? Something they
No, like you've just said, I hope it's of interest to others. At least I enjoyed being here, really. So thanks to everyone involved for that. I think that's about it from my side.
Great. Before we end the podcast, we are expecting hopefully a professional athlete to join us as the next
cool.
episode. Do you have any specific question you would like to move forward to that coming guest?
Maybe a bit more elaborating about what we discussed, that athletes have such a high amount of pressure placed on them from within themselves, but also the outside world. And I would be keen to hear from firsthand from an athlete, like how he or she tries to balance all that, also a healthy work-life balance within his or her career.
Great, perfect. So we'll let you know what the response is, or you will hear it in your preferred platform.
I will give it a listen.
Great. That's all for today on Beyond the Pulse. Thank you everybody for listening. Thank you for helping us entertain everybody else in this complex world of sports. We hope you find today's discussion very interesting. Sorry. Please go check out Rainer on LinkedIn or check out, of course, FC Utrecht. You see the next game this weekend. That's all for today on Beyond the Pulse. Thank you for joining us in this complex world of sports. We discuss a lot about very interesting things. We hope you find today's discussion very interesting. And especially, we hope it added value to your athletic career or your performance career. Please follow us on your preferred platform and stay up to date when we release the next episodes. Thank you.